a pleasure after attending your classes personally and now sitting and interviewing you. It's a different feeling altogether.
Everybody talks about what an IIT guy has done, what an IM entrepreneur has done. I said there are a lot of people in CA who have been successful in different fields.
Correct.
But the whole thing really picked momentum sometime in 2016.
Yeah, one simple concept that you simplified it so much that people actually really appreciated, or your students really appreciated it.
Teaching was literally accidental. Consulting would have been exciting.
Yeah.
Corporate there, despite the fact that I worked in management accounting, it looked very routine. I told him, sir, nobody will read. Maybe we should write about her in 30-40 pages. Any job that is rule-based, which is typically accounting, which is why a lot of accounting gets automated by Zoho. I said all these jobs will disappear. Writing will not go away. Drawing will not go away. Writing poems will not go away. All that. And I've been hopelessly wrong. Because ChatGPT has shown all of this can go away.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Really happy to have you over here on the show. It's a pleasure after attending your classes personally and now sitting and interviewing you. It's a different feeling altogether. So welcome over here, sir.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take you way back into why you got into accounting.
That's the easiest question to answer.
Okay.
I don't know about today, but during my growing up years, the best and brightest guys used to go either to engineering or to medicine.
Okay.
I had no interest in doing them. Physics, chemistry, biology, these were just over my head. I still remember when I told a friend of my father that I intend to pursue CA.
Okay.
He said, no, good students must do engineering. But like I said, no, it was literally by elimination. And I think even today that is that, because unless you have in school anything to do with accountancy and commerce, it's automatically just that you don't like science, you get into
the
accounting.
commerce stream.
At least my case was that. I was very clear about that.
That's nice, sir. So tell me, since you completed your examination way back, right? What was your process like? How did you face your examinations?
I don't want to sound hi-fi or whatever.
Yeah.
But during my articleship, we hardly had time to look at books. I stayed in a hostel here.
Okay.
And for us, it was only the study holidays. There were classes, but they were not as large as they these days are.
Correct.
And therefore, my preparation was essentially during the final 2-3 months.
Yeah.
I think the firm in Deloitte, they were very clear that you get only 60 days of study leave. I was actually lucky because I somehow felt that topics like cost accounting and financial management, when I looked at them, I used to feel that I've read this before.
Okay.
I think the bugbear was largely in tax and perhaps accounting.
Okay.
That is how it was. And I think most people studied that way.
That's nice, sir. So as soon as you cleared, what did you do? Did you get into your own practice? Did you go work somewhere?
No, I didn't get into my own practice. I had offers from some of India's best companies, including places like Lever, places like ITC. I think I almost have had 10 job offers on hand.
Oh, wow.
And I, however, decided to join what today people call a startup. I decided to join a consulting company which was run by a man called Yashasvi.
Okay.
Mr. Yashasvi was already a first rank in CA Inter, CA Final, first rank in ICWA Inter, ICWA Final, first rank in his university BCom.
Yeah.
It's a record that's just about unbeatable. And I told myself that that's where I should join.
Okay.
So luckily nobody protested. Nobody said, why do you want to go and join a small entity when there's so many large companies around?
Correct.
So that is how I started. Then after that I worked in a manufacturing company for a couple of years, and then I got into practice.
Oh, okay. So while you were on this trajectory of working and then starting up your own practice, how did teaching come into the picture?
No, if you look at it very technically, I don't think I'm cut for practice. Given my
Okay.
academic track record, I think I should have worked in corporate. But
Okay.
somewhere down the line, it didn't excite. Maybe consulting would have been exciting.
Yeah.
Corporate there, despite the fact that I worked in management accounting, it looked very routine.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, let me try and work on my own. Teaching was, to be very honest, I don't know how people will take it when I say it. Teaching was literally accidental.
Accidental.
I went to Mr. Shivakumar, R.
Okay.
Shivakumar. I did not know him. I knew him only as one of the organizers when I was a student and I spoke at a seminar. So I went and told him I want to teach.
Okay.
So he asked me, have you taught before? I said, no, I have not taught before. I have only spoken at debates in colleges. So he said, okay, let us try out. And that is how it started. And luckily, it turned out to be, I would think, the best phase of my career.
That's nice, sir. So, what was your first class like? Like, run me through that entire feeling of yours, which you had.
No, I had no issues about the class. My only worry was largely about whether because no, all said and done, a classroom is not homogeneous.
Correct.
And this CA classrooms, as you know, is very heterogeneous.
Yeah.
There are people of different categories coming in. So my largest worry was whether they would understand what I teach. Luckily, I think because I used some of those tools that I had used as a student, shorter ways of working, picking up the concepts and explaining.
Correct.
And luckily it worked. Maybe because I was very young and people thought, oh, this guy can teach, so it's interesting. So that's how it got on.
That's nice, sir. So you specifically chose cost management and SFM or strategic financial management to teach. What is one simple way, if you could just give me a 2-minute session in terms of like one simple concept that you simplified it so much that people actually really appreciated or your students really appreciated it?
For example, in relevant costs or in marginal costing, fixed cost is not important in taking a decision unless the fixed costs are going to rise.
Correct.
So I figured out explaining that I'll not get into the detail because it will be too long form. I tried to explain that by taking an example of a guy who goes to Mayajal for a movie.
Okay.
So gave them a practical situation where 3 people go for a movie and a 4th person comes in, but he's only wanting to pay less than the average cost.
Correct.
And still showed them how they could still have surplus cash on hand.
Okay.
So those were things that people really cottoned on. Again, staying with marginal costing, about when to use contribution to decide, when to use contribution per unit of key factor, and what is the reason to use that to rank was another interesting one. I pulled out example from the game of cricket to explain that, and people really understood it. And everywhere, these were maybe the ones that people today remember, but everywhere I tried to find out whether there was a relatable example.
Okay.
Another one, for example, was about a statement that if you put leverage into the books, it increases your risk.
Yeah.
So somebody asked me, can you prove that mathematically? Because otherwise it was only textual explanation.
Correct, yeah.
So one guy, he was one of those bright guys, said, can you prove that mathematically? Luckily for me, 6 o'clock had just then happened. So that means the class was over. So I went back, spoke to a couple of professors whom I knew, and then sat and somehow discovered mathematically how it can be proved. Today, of course, there is Google, or more importantly, there is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But when you are challenged and you try to find out easy ways for people to remember, then that stays forever.
That's interesting, sir. I still remember, going to, pick up your books and, run through them right before the examination, those tidbits which you give towards the end of the book where, you summarize the whole thing. So, yeah, that is something which is interesting. Talking about books, how did you get into writing?
Well, strictly speaking, I was always into writing, right from my school. If journalism had been a paying proposition, As soon as I finished CA, I would have gone and done writing.
Oh,
There was
okay.
no two opinion about that. So even then, I used to write for a city magazine, which is now no longer there.
Yeah.
It was one of the finest magazines that has ever been in the country, a magazine called Aside,
Okay.
ASIDE. So I wrote there. Then I was writing in the Hindu for a long period of time. That is how the writing happened.
Correct.
And then I wrote a couple of books, but the whole thing really picked momentum sometime in 2016.
Yeah.
Mr. Shivakumar, R. Shivakumar, was keen to write a book on the first women CA of India.
Okay.
I told him, sir, nobody will read. Maybe we should write about her in 30, 40 pages. I also suggested to him that today everybody talks about what an IIT guy has done, what an IM entrepreneur has done. I said there are a lot of people in CA who have been successful in different fields.
Correct.
So we will do a book on them along with Ms. Shiva Bogam, who is the first CEO. And then the momentum picked. People liked it. And after that, I think I've written a lot of books.
You have 26 books to your name.
Yeah. The last few years, last 6, 7 years itself must be some 15 odd.
Yeah.
It was not difficult to write, largely because in many cases we have a team of people writing.
Okay.
Even today, there are about 40 people whom I can network with at any point in time. Depending upon their availability, some 10, 15 people will come in. So if it is something that requires multiple people, they will do a first draft. I'll help them. I'll conceptualize like what we did for India in 2047.
Correct.
Then they would write, and then finally I would do a rewrite to suit a uniform writing style. So it was not very difficult. And today, luckily, a lot of people want to write, unlike in the past. Today, a lot of people want to write, and they want to write because they see and find that, oh, anybody can write. What's the big deal about it? It's no longer like the old school way of writing.
1800s or 1900s, where only certain particular people would write. Yeah, that's nice. And I think, so how different is an experience of writing for a student? Because I know you have written educational content as well, while compared to like an autobiography or something on the other stream of like non-fiction.
To be honest, to me, it makes no difference because my textbooks became largely popular only because people like to read it. Meaning, what I mean to say is that they were not like the conventional textbooks. They were written in a language that was easy to read.
Yeah.
In fact, I must tell you that in that book on strategic financial management, which was actually for a long period of time recommended by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the problem-solving part, which is actually, according to me, the heart of the book, was written by my co-author. I didn't do anything much of that. The flowing text was written by me because I thought I love to write. So we bring the same way of writing to the other thing also. So to me, it honestly does not make a great deal of difference whether it is a biography, whether it's a non-fiction. And I've told myself that we will consistently write the same way, conversational, all active voice, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a very simplified version.
Very simplified, not because one wanted to simplify, largely because one did not know the complications involved.
Yeah, and also it like when someone reads your books, it feels like they're talking. You're talking to them rather than while we are like you're authoring them or something like that.
I should actually tell you something very interesting.
Tell me, please.
Long back, I wrote an article for the CA Institute's journal.
Okay.
And the institute's editorial board was very clear that they can't carry a piece like that.
Okay.
It was just the president who said, no, this is how we must write, and this is what we should carry. This is the way it should be written.
Yeah.
And when I went for a conference to speak, he was hunting around and wanted to know where I was. We have not met before. So what I'm trying to say is that, or even when I was writing for the Hindu, I think what I wrote stood out compared to the others. I'm not saying it was better, but it stood out because people were keen to read because it was easy to read.
Yeah.
So I always felt that when you write, the other guy should not think that this is someone who is who knows the subject way too well. He should feel that he's also like me, so he also talks the same kind of language as I do.
Correct.
And then it becomes easier to
Yeah.
connect with the reader.
So you're very empathetic, I would say, in your writing. Is that a form?
I will put it less diplomatically.
Okay.
I'm very clear that I want people to read what I write.
Correct.
And
Okay.
when you want people to read what you write, I think you have to write the way that they would love to read.
That's
Without dumbing down the quality. I don't
Yeah.
want the quality of the writing to get completely
Yeah,
dumbed down,
definitely.
where people say, hey, what is this? Although many people might like it, find it easy to read.
That's nice. So you are basically an entrepreneur by running your own firm, and then you've worked in the past. You've had your service experience. You're an author. You're a teacher or a professor in Prime Academy. How do you manage so much with so little time? What's your
No, I am very clear in my mind that no, you do what you like to do. I have that way been very lucky. There's no great pressure that I must do only this.
Okay.
Both in my firm and elsewhere. Today, even in my firm, I hardly do much of work except to do parts that I actually want to do. So that's why I'm away from audit. That's why for the last 20 years, I don't sign financial statements, nothing. So luckily for me, which is not what it is for everybody, luckily for me, after some point in time, what I wanted to do was what I did. Some streams of them paid well, in the sense that ultimately you also need to put food on the table. So to that extent, they were good.
Correct.
Maybe if I had put more heart, one might have earned substantially more, but that was never the intention. So once you decide that this is what I like to do and do that, it becomes easy to do. And I always think that at least after a point in time, I don't want to say at what point in time, but at least after a point in time, people must do what they like.
That's nice. So, sir, with regards to, you've also spoken about how AI and ChatGPT is changing the profession. Can you share your 2 cents over here on the show?
I'm very clear in my mind this AI will eat up a lot of jobs.
Correct.
I still remember the last 4 or 5 years, I used to go around the country on behalf of a couple of organizations speaking about the future of work, how work will be in the future.
Yeah.
Everywhere I said that no, any job that is rule-based, which is typically accounting, which is why a lot of accounting gets automated by Zoho. I said all these jobs will disappear. I also said that there are many jobs that won't go away because they are creative. I said writing will not go away, drawing will not go away, writing poems will not go away, all that. And I've been hopelessly wrong because ChatGPT has shown all of this can go away. At the same time, I will not say that these are going to replace people. I would like to think that these are, at least when it comes to writing, these are going to be the first drafts.
Yeah.
Like you have 10 people work for you, create a first draft, and then you modify. ChatGPT is therefore good for brainstorming. It's good to give you ideas that you would otherwise never find out. And after that, if you're a writer worth the salt, you must do your own writing. So it is like I've been telling everywhere where I speak that, for example, earlier if it took me 1 month to write working with 5 people, today I can work with 2 people and do the same writing in 10 days. So what do? Other 20 days I can take up 2 more work.
Correct.
Or I can say, okay, let me go around the world or let me go around the country, see places where I have not seen.
Correct.
So if I decide to do 3x the work, then there are some people who are going to lose their jobs. So if I decide to do what I'm now trying to do, nobody is going to lose their jobs. I am doing what I now do not because I'm very empathetic and say, oh, people should not lose their jobs. What I'm trying to hint at is that ChatGPT will not, by itself, not take away jobs. People who use it will take away jobs of people who don't use it. That is what is going to happen. So my view is that it's a great enabler, and as long as the fun lasts, we must actively use it.
That's nice. I like the way you mentioned that it's a great enabler.
It's really an enabler. You can ask it. You would know better. You can ask it any question that you want.
Yeah.
There are questions that somebody can't ask a father or a mother, can't even ask a friend. You can ask ChatGPT, and of what I have seen it gives extremely practical answers.
Yeah. And I think right now with the emotional intelligence also coming into all these AI softwares,
Correct.
they are also becoming slightly on the emotional scale when you talk about it also in terms of like answering.
True.
Yeah. So that's nice, sir. So in terms of like, for a student, how can AI benefit them?
I gave you some examples earlier about marginal costing.
Yeah.
Now today, you don't need a teacher to tell you that.
Correct.
Today, ChatGPT gives you that. For example, I've actually ended up writing a chapter of a completely unknown subject, sitting in front of ChatGPT, asking it all the doubts that I could. I would, for example, tell it that, no, please don't give me American examples. I'm from India, I don't relate to that. So they would change the examples and give.
Okay.
I would then tell them I come from finance background, not from an IT background. So give me examples with which I will understand. And it gives. And then you go one step further, say, no, I'm not able to understand this. I'm a class 9 student. Explain to me in my language. And it does that. So I think today is the best time to learn. Questions that you might not want to ask a teacher for whatever reason. Correct. You can ask it, and it's wonderful. My point is that today, with the arrival of generative AI, it's both the best time to teach and the best time to learn.
That's nice, sir. So I think while everyone thinks that learning has to stop with generative AI, over here it's very refreshing to hear from you, saying that we have to continue learning, and that's when only the concepts become easier in a way.
Yeah. For example, if someone who's finished his engineering, finishes medicine, or finished his CA, now goes back without the pressure of wanting to read for the exam.
Yeah.
Now, whatever subject he picks up, which he likes it, today he can really get into it in depth in terms of understanding the concept.
Like master that entire thing.
Correct.
That's nice, sir. So, what are your current books that you're working on? Or do you want to spill the beans?
I'll tell you, there's no problem. I actually work on multiple books because, like I told you, I have a lot of people working along with me, and they are not full-time people. In fact, if at all I've been able to write a lot, it's largely because of them. And we are writing in the finishing stages of the biography of a man called J.P. Ramappa.
Okay.
He's not exactly a celebrity, but he's someone who has been the chancellor of a university.
Okay.
He's from an IIT-IM background, and he's now 77 years old, and he plays badminton across the world.
Oh.
He's been a sportsman throughout. It's not that he made a career in sports, but he's been playing for the last 40 years, and even today he goes abroad to play, has been winning medals. So when the offer to write came, I said, no, but what is the fun in writing about a man who may not be known? Then they said, no, just look at the sheer wealth of information that is there. And when I talked with him for the first time, I said, this is a guy we must write. So that should happen anytime. I'm also writing for Rupa. Rupa is going to publish it.
Okay.
A book of the man that I told you about earlier, N.J. SSV. That should come sometime in October. We have still not finished the manuscript. He is now no more, so this is his 75th year. So two of us decided that it's good to write about him. These are the two things that are at some stage of completion. Then there is always a perennial churn, like in any organization, they try multiple products.
Yeah.
We try multiple things, like the book that I showed you about Bala. Like that, we are trying to locate people whom we can write about.
Correct.
We're also updating that book, India in 2047, which we wrote in 2022. 2 years is a long time. Generative AI had not come there then. So a lot of things have happened. So we want to come out with a second edition. Like that, there are many things that are going on. So it's actually very exciting.
That's nice, sir.
It's very exciting.
So, what is the legacy that you're leaving behind, or you want to leave behind?
It's today very hard for anyone to leave a legacy in the sense that you get remembered for long. I think that time has gone for whatever reason. We have to be very practical about that. Even in an organization, the very senior guy or someone who's very central to the whole thing
Correct.
He goes off, people will miss him for a week. After that, they will all get back to work. My thinking, because of what I've been doing, is that if I can come out with 2-3 books that can actually create a legacy, I would be extremely happy with that. We have identified, among the many books that we write, we have identified 2-3 which we think should help leave a legacy, and let's see how it works. And I'm also very clear that no, these books don't have to be blockbusters. They don't have to sell large volumes today. They can sell good after my time. That's also perfectly fine.
Right.
So books that, if you look at Benjamin Graham's book on
Yeah.
investment, for example, people even today read. That's the kind of book that one should really write. So one of the books that we are toying with is something on money, although there are lots of books on money, but we want to write it in a, what should I say, in a more fundamental way.
Okay.
We want to rewrite our SFM book. It's today, the subject is advanced financial management, because that's something that can stay behind.
Yeah.
Though in a CA fraternity, it does not stay behind unless you constantly teach, but it doesn't matter. Today, with the arrival of YouTube and with the ability to put it digitally and no pressure that it should sell tons of copy, today it is possible that it can build a traction of its own. Like that, we have identified 4 or 5, but these are the ones that come at the top of my mind.
That's nice, sir. So I've had a lovely time talking to you and chatting with you. It's been a pleasure having you on the
Thank
show,
you.
sir. So we're going to go on to our next segment, which is called Beyond the Balance Sheets. So on this particular segment, I'm going to be using my phone for that. So pardon me. It's going to be a fun segment where I get to know the fun, quirky aspects of CA Pattabhi Raman.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a few questions which I have planned. My first question is, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the most important piece of advice that I would want to give myself is that it's important to build a network. I'm not a guy who socializes very easily, but I think today one wants to move ahead, whatever may be the talent. It's important to build a network.
That's nice. So you've written 26 books. If one of them were to be made in a movie, which one would it be and who would you?
Oh, it's very clear. The book that must become a movie is Tech Phoenix, that I wrote along with Mr.
Correct.
Manoharan.
Yeah.
That's the book that is
about the Satyam.
about, it's just about the 100 days when these 6 gentlemen revived Satyam.
Correct.
That's the book that must be converted into a movie.
That's nice, sir. So if you could spend a day with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
The best answer that people give is Mahatma Gandhi, but I don't think that will really work. I am not very, maybe I would like to spend a day with someone like Sachin Tendulkar rather than any of those historical figures.
That's nice. So you're an avid player of squash and pickleball also. So what's the memorable game or moment you've had on the court?
No, I think the entire process itself is memorable because I've not played to win tournaments, although I now go and play.
Yeah.
The very fact that someone now can play is absolutely rejuvenating. And although squash I've been playing from the time I was into my CA, pickleball is, as you know, something that has just begun.
Yeah.
And when I first played, I could play maybe 20 minutes. Today I can play a couple of hours. And I think that itself is exciting. It's not a particular game or a match that I would think to remember.
So it's just for the aspect of enjoying yourself.
It also keeps you fit. Both of them are there.
So if you could master any other skill or profession outside of writing, teaching or accounting, what would it be?
One that I should be able to do these days. I think if I can learn to cook, it'll be good.
Okay.
You don't have to depend on anybody, at least during pressure situations.
So what's the most unconventional or surprising thing you've learned throughout your career that changed the way you approach life?
All right. I won't say unconventional. I think some people pick it up early, some people pick it up late. Couple of things that I've now realized is that though I knew it theoretically earlier, that different people can have different views or different ways of doing things, and they may all be correct. If you want, I can give you a very quick example.
Sure, please.
I had a colleague of mine, if you ask him how many people have, let's say, joined for a seminar, he would say, I went and met Zoho. They said that they will give us 20 people. I traveled from Mylapore to Gudwanjeri. Then he'll say, I went and met somebody. He said he's given 5. He said he will get some more. I personally would be terribly irritated because all that I want to know is how many have joined. So I would have been extremely happy if he had said 12 people have joined, even if the number is smaller. 12 people have joined, 10 more are likely to join, or 50 have joined. Only later I understood that there are some people who talk like that because they have a lot of pride in what they have done. Whereas I am interested in just knowing the final numbers. So pretty late I realized that it is not that people want to show off or whatever. Different people look at things very differently. That's one. I think the second thing that I learned, and that I learned pretty late, is that there's really no reason to get worked up, no reason to get wild at somebody, because again, that person is looking at things from a very different angle, so he or she might still be right. I find it hard to give an example, or maybe giving an example here may not be appropriate, but these are the two things that I think I've learned. And I think the second one is far more important, the one that you don't get unduly upset because somebody is doing something which is very different from what you want them to do.
Yeah, and sometimes things are out of your control. You can't manage.
Exactly, out of your control. For example, earlier, if I were to come here and I would get delayed by even 10 minutes, I'll get endlessly worked up and then tell the driver, why don't you drive fast? I realize, okay, you reach 5 minutes early. What are you going to do? What are you going to prove beyond the fact that you keep time?
Yeah.
So I think that's how the perspectives have changed.
That's nice, sir. So my last 2 questions would be, if you could instantly become an expert in any other field, what would it be?
I really don't know. Maybe if I can use AI far more powerfully. I do fairly at a leading edge, but still if I can do stronger than that, if I can also, instead of me using it as a generative tool, if I can be able to link it, connect it to some other tool, use it, that would be good. And I'm saying that only because you asked a question. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with what it is now.
That's nice, sir. So what's your go-to stress buster when you need to unwind from a busy day?
I honestly don't have a very busy day.
Oh, okay.
Although I do multiple things, all the work that I do are highly enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if I get completely stressed out, I might possibly want to go and play a game of pickleball, or maybe listen to some music. I have some 15 songs on my playlist, which despite the years when they were first sung, they are simply brilliant.
Okay.
And that's again something that I picked only the last 4 or 5 years. I think I would possibly go listen to that.
That's nice, sir. So I really appreciate you answering all my questions.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show. I really appreciate all the time and effort that you've taken to be present over here and patiently answering all my questions and nitty-gritty questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.